Hey, everybody, it's Melinda Russell with Let's Talk Racing Live. And I'm so excited tonight. I say this every week, Liz, but I just love when I have guests on. And every week it seems like it gets better and better. My special guest tonight is Liz Allison. She was supposed to be with me last week, but we had a little confusion about the time because we're in different time zones. And Liz, it happens all the time. And
No,
many
I
times,
felt terrible.
no, do not feel terrible. And many times I'm the one that makes the mistake. No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. But most of you should know or probably do know who Liz is. But if not, I know I have a lot of younger girls and families that listen. So I'm going to do a little intro for you, Liz, and talk about what you've done and what you're doing now. And then we'll start our discussion.
Sounds good.
Leading lady of motorsports, Liz Allison, started on the sidelines, a young wife watching her husband, Davey Allison, win big time NASCAR races. In his 9 year career, he had 92, that's a lot, top 10 finishes, and 19 trips to victory lane, the sweetest of all, the Daytona 500. But on July 13th, 1993, the racing world was shocked when he tragically died in a helicopter crash as its pilot. Liz was left with a 1 year old, a 3 year old, and excruciating grief. In the nearly 30 years since, she has transformed her grief and passion for racing into her own extraordinary career in media and motorsports. Liz has covered NASCAR as a pit road reporter and feature reporter, appeared on national television shows including The Today Show and Fox and Friends, served as announcer and host for the Nashville Super Speedway. She's published 13 books on the sport and hosted the #1 NASCAR radio show in Nashville. Most recently, she's moved into the role of executive vice president at Music City Grand Prix, which will be coming to Nashville August 4th through the 6th. So, Liz, I want to give you a hearty welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. And thank you for such a warm welcome. I appreciate that. And again, my sincere apologies for last week and for anyone that was, expecting me at a certain time. I absolutely, it was not funny, but it was like ironic that in the afternoon I told my assistant, I said, I guess I probably need to check the time for the time zone. And I looked and I had written it down as 7 o'clock Central.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh, I'm good. And so sure enough, I screwed it up. So
But you know what, Liz? Things happen the way they're supposed to.
yeah, I
So,
guess so. So here it is, Daytona week. So that
that's right. So that's what I was going to just say. On the TV behind my computer, they're doing all the race car hub is doing all the interviews with the drivers because
yeah,
tonight is qualifying.
that's right.
We'll be done in time to watch, don't worry.
That's right. And
So,
there's some big storylines from
oh,
qualifying tonight too. So
there is, and there's been a couple guys who got contracts renewed. Suarez and Alex
yeah,
Bowman both got their contracts renewed today. And so I'm really excited about being able to watch that later tonight. I love being there. I just couldn't do it this year. But so not only is it Daytona week and he won the Daytona 500, which
right.
had to be an amazing thing, but
Absolutely.
but it's also something that I found today. So I connected with a lady a few years ago whose mother had passed away, and she was a hoarder. The mother was, but one of the things that she hoarded that she kept in really good condition was NASCAR memorabilia.
Wow.
And the daughter had no use for it. She was going to just pitch it. Somebody I knew her, and they connected us. So I have 4-inch binders full of NASCAR. I call them hero cards, whatever you want to call them,
Yeah.
baseball cards. I happened to be going through some today because I was looking for one, and it wasn't this one, but this is what I found today.
Oh my goodness, look at that. And handsome Harry.
Handsome Harry. I'm going to get it.
Yeah,
Handsome
very
Harry.
Wow,
and
look at
Davy
that.
Allison.
How about that? I love it. I love it. I love when people come across little gems like that. They're just,
Isn't that something?
yeah. And I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but I guess I want to say I started unpacking Davy's boxes maybe like, gosh, I'm trying to think how long ago it's been now. Maybe 6 years ago. I had all these boxes of Davy, all these different uh, the hero cards and the little
Yeah.
trading cards and all these die casts and all these trophies and awards and memorabilia and old t-shirts and stuff, race jackets, and they were just all piled up in all these boxes that had just been stacked up, and we have a trophy room and all that stuff was stacked up in there. And it's obviously it's a little different when you lose somebody, when someone passes away. um, a lot of times that stuff doesn't really feel great. It's
Yeah.
sad, and it's not like you walk in and it's all happy memories and happy good
No.
feelings. A lot of times it's hard.
It
And so
brings back a lot of memories that then makes you sad because he's
yes,
no
yes,
longer here.
that's
Yeah.
right. And so we avoided a lot of that. We,
Mhm.
being Robbie, Kristen, myself, for so many years. So it was all packed up in all these boxes and put away. So years ago, when it was so important for me to, and I get emotional talking about it every time, but it was so important for me, and became a passion for me, and probably, probably an obsession, I guess I would say, for Davey to be inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame,
Mhm.
which obviously he is now
Right.
in the Hall of Fame. But at the time, I thought, I had mentioned it to several people, and they said, "Oh, you know what? He'll probably never be inducted. He didn't win a championship, and blah 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 blah." And Larry McReynolds and I had countless conversations about all of his stats that you've already mentioned at the top of the show. And so somebody said, "Why don't you start doing something that kind of makes them a little relevant, like something that would kind of bring it back to people?" So I thought, I'm going to start unpacking all these boxes. And so I started unpacking the boxes, and I did it on like social media, social platforms, Twitter, Facebook, where I started unpacking stuff. And every box was truly a surprise for me because I had no idea
Mhm.
what was in them. And
Right.
I would put all the pictures on social media, and it was so, and I would cry, and sometimes I would laugh,
Mhm.
and but it was the coolest thing because I
Yeah.
found so many things like that card you're talking about, and I was able to share it with people that were kind of
Mhm.
following along with me, opening up all those boxes, and
Yeah.
lo and behold, Davey, was inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So it's really,
And well deserved. He should have been. And when I hear you say people were negative to you about that, that hurts.
it does, and they were wrong, and I'm so
They
happy
were
that
wrong.
they were wrong. And it's just, you have to look at the whole body of work for
Yes.
anything that anybody does. I mean, it's not in this case for a NASCAR Hall of Famer. eh, Sure, I mean, there's certain people that you can look at, and I mean,
Right.
Richard Petty, Dale
Yes.
Earnhardt. Obviously, those are people that you can look at them and go, of course they should be in the Hall of Fame. And I'm going to say, Alan Kawicki, it was a great kind of the
Mhm.
flip flop side of that is he won a championship, but he didn't have a lot of wins, outside of that. So then
Yeah.
there would be people that would argue that. And you look at Dale Earnhardt Jr. and not having the championship, but look at his body of work. Look at
Yes.
everything that he's contributed to the sport. And that's really what we have to do. I think,
Yeah.
the committees have to do, and they did and made the right call
Mhm.
with Davey. Davey went in his second year, um,
Yeah.
after he was, when he was on the big group, I should say, as a
Yeah.
nominee. And so we're really proud of that today,
Yeah.
and continue to brag on him for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because when I read, when I printed this and I read that, and I'll be honest, in 1993, I had 4 children and we were going 4 different directions. And so I liked racing, but we had kind of gotten out of the habit of watching or going to races because my son played baseball, my daughters were in dance and tumbling and all these things. And so we couldn't, we just couldn't do everything. And
Right.
so in those years, I wasn't following as closely. Although when things like that happened with your husband and other things, or when there was a big race and there was a win, of course you hear
Right.
about it. But you know, it, it's important that those people be remembered, rather whatever the criteria.
Mhm.
And like you said, you look at Denny Hamlin, he's got a lot of wins and a lot of things. He's never won a championship.
Right.
Should that keep him out of the Hall of Fame? No.
Right.
But, so they have to look at each case separately. And I think overall, they do a really good job of choosing. And that's hard because now it's down to 3
I know
every year.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's really hard. Well, before we get going on what you're doing now, the other card that I found today was really cool, and it's dated February 15th, which is today,
yeah.
2004,
Oh, wow.
the Daytona 500.
Oh, my
Try
goodness.
to get it in front of the
Yeah,
camera.
look at that.
And President George Bush flew in on Air Force One and was at the race.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
that's kind of cool. So anyway,
very cool. I love it.
yeah. So I wanted to share those with you and with the audience. So Liz, you have done some amazing, amazing things. So let's, not to bring up bad things, but after Davy passed away, then you could have gone down the I don't want anything to do with motorsports path, which you probably went through that maybe some, or you said, this is what he loved, this is what we loved together. And so I'm going to keep on. So take it away. Tell me your story.
I did go through a time frame of which I was really, I was angry at the sport, and
Mhm.
like somehow the sport was responsible for taking my husband away. And through many years of processing and therapy and everything else that
Yeah.
I try to do to get over hard times, I came to realize that it wasn't, obviously the sport didn't take my husband away. What was hurtful to me is that life went on. It
Right.
just was like, it seemed like just a little flick in time, just a little flip of the switch and he was gone. And 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 I think that the hurt and the, which was no one's fault, but just the what I had to work through with my own grief was that my hurt, it didn't mean that other people weren't hurting. And yes, life does go on as it should. The sport did go on. It just, I didn't want it to. Somehow
Right.
I wanted it to stop. I wanted everything to freeze frame and go back to the way that it was. And
Hmm.
our kids were 1 and 3, so they were just, they were babies.
Right.
So it was really painful for me to see the sport, see my friends, and honestly, life change. And again, nobody's fault, but like when you, the life that we live in NASCAR, it's unlike other sports. I mean, it's, people call it the traveling circus, call it what you want, but your family is at the racetrack.
Right.
You don't know your neighbors a lot of times because
No.
you're spending your time at the racetrack. and
Hmm.
and so my friends continue to go to the racetrack and be there, and I'm not, because I have no reason to be there. And just because life happens, my life changed. My friends weren't around anymore because they were at the racetrack. I wasn't going to the racetrack, obviously, and my heart's broken. And so it was just life. Life can be really hard sometimes.
Sure.
I know there's people that will listen to this and know it hurts, and it's hard to pick up the pieces, and especially when you're trying to figure out what in the heck am I going to do with myself.
Right.
My life revolved around racing and Davy and our kids in racing, and so it was really like, okay, what am I going to do with me? And I didn't like it. And so there was that time frame. There was 5 years between Davy died in 1993. 1998 was the 50th anniversary of NASCAR.
Hmm.
Bill Jr. was just a dear friend of mine. Davey was scared to death of him, and I adored Bill Jr. We had a really special relationship.
Yeah.
He used to always say, "What, he doesn't like me? Why does he like you?" But we had a great relationship, and he was really so kind to me when Davey was alive, and especially after Davey passed. And so he called me and he said, okay, it's time. It's been 5 years, sweetie. It's time to come back. And I didn't want to. Thought I didn't belong. Wasn't sure how that would all work. And he said, I'm gonna, I'll send a plane. I want you and the kids to come and be with us. It's important for you to come here and be a part of what we're doing. And we want to honor baby, but we want you to be a part of that. We want the kids to know their extended family, and I think it's really important for people to hear that. Bill Jr.
Yeah.
was a really could be very intimidating, and people
Mm-hmm.
said that about Mike Helton, and he's like the biggest teddy bear ever. But he was that way, and actually Mike Helton is the same way. And so I packed the kids up, and we lived in Nashville. And so we packed up and went to Daytona, and we were just reminded of the family that still loved us, and a sport that was a part of us. And so that was kind of after 5 years, that was my homecoming, if you will, coming back and being at Daytona. The kids, loved it, loved being around their racing friends and family. And so then slowly, then I started working in the sport, and was a pit reporter there for a while, and had always been a writer. And so I got back into my writing and just kind of threw myself into obviously my kids and then also my work. And then, one thing, as with whatever anybody's career is, one thing kind of leads to the other. So
Yeah.
it's been a process of different things throughout my career. And it wasn't anything that I ever really went out seeking necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, one thing led to the other.
Right. Right. When you're in one spot and then they see what you're doing, and then somebody says, "Hey, I think you would be good at this. Why don't you?" And it's a progression. It just
That's right.
one step to the
Regardless
next
of
step.
what your career is,
Right.
exactly right.
Right. And so now you're involved with IndyCar.
Yes.
So how did you jump from NASCAR to IndyCar?
I know, isn't that funny? I know
Yeah.
people. Some of my friends are like, "Oh, you went to the other side." I'm like, well, "Listen, it's motorsports. I love it."
Right.
So I live in Nashville, obviously, and I love motorsports, and had never really thought about. I loved the IROC series when that series was alive and well, and Davey loved racing in it, and I always had respect for the drivers that he raced with, Little Al Unser, and many of the drivers that he raced with in that series. Just really loved it and had an appreciation for it, but never really followed it. And so fast forward to COVID, for everybody, the brakes go on and everything changes. I was working in NASCAR, traveling around quite a bit when COVID hit, and had been for years. I've been hosting radio shows in Nashville for years too. I was on the premium hospitality side of things, in the NASCAR world, so I was traveling a lot. And so when COVID hit, I, like everybody else, was grounded. I was at home. And so Matt Cruz, who's the founder and CEO of the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, is a longtime friend. I actually met him years ago, right before Davey passed away. So we had been friends for many years, and kind of woven in and out of each other's lives with different things. And Matt had been involved in NASCAR for a long time as well. And so we met up for lunch in the middle of COVID. And the whole time I'm thinking,
naughty.
I know, right? And then I'm going back to work. When everything lifts, I'm going back to work. I'll be back, jet setting around the NASCAR scene and doing my thing.
Yeah.
And so Matt said, "Hey, what about, would you, because all of my hospitality experience," he said, "Why don't you come work with it?" They were getting ready to have their first race. So it was, COVID was happening, but they were still working and remotely and so on, because they had a race to plan. And so I joined the team, always in my mind thinking that I would go back to NASCAR and do my thing. And so I started there as what was supposed to be like 5 hours a week, which is such a joke. The that the only time I worked 5 hours, it was my first day, and then it was after that, it was like, woo. And so, so started working with the team. I was the director of partnerships and the investor rep. And then just kind of transitioned into a couple of different hats that I was wearing. And then this past year, right after our second event, then I was promoted to executive vice president.
Okay.
So really excited, love it, and I belong where I am. I love being a part of this team. We have an amazing team. We have an amazing event. And now it's I as much as I love my NASCAR family, I'm where I belong, and this is IndyCar is just another form of motorsports.
Right. And I tell you what, so NASCAR is going to try to race through the streets of Chicago.
Chicago, right?
And so, I guess they think since you guys did it through the streets of Nashville, they can do Chicago. It's funny, my cousins live there, and they used to have a condo that overlooked Navy Pier. It was the 65th floor or something. It was amazing. But they sold it. But I reached out to my cousin and I said, what do you think about NASCAR racing through the streets of Chicago? I said, how do you think that's going to work? And she said, oh, they've got lots of practice shutting streets down because of Obama. Because Obama was from there. And so she says, oh, they know that, they're great about shutting streets down. And we kind of laughed. And so, but I was so impressed. So I stayed downtown. I was as I said to you before we got on here, I went to the first one that you held there.
Right.
And it was my first ever Indy race, and my husband as well. And we stayed downtown, and I could look out my hotel window at the bridge. And so I could stand at my hotel and watch them practicing going across the bridge. Very cool. Very cool.
It's amazing. It really is. My dog just joined me. So.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah. It is amazing to see the cars 200 miles per hour going across the bridge. It's unbelievable. And I will tell you, as far as Chicago, and this is something that a lot of people really don't truly understand. I didn't until I joined the team and became a part of the Grand Prix here in Nashville, is that the undertaking, it is unbelievable what it takes to put on a street race. Because you think about it, and in Chicago, I'm learning a lot about that for different reasons. I'll be in Chicago for the race there and helping with some things there on site. But our race here, we have to build all these temporary structures, our grandstands, and you saw it because you were here. Our clubs, our premium hospitality, our Club RPM, our East Club, we transform a part of the stadium, but everything else, we have to build it. And let me tell you, not only do we have to build it, but we have to do it in a really tight time frame, because the stadium because it's summertime, they have all these concert series in the stadium.
Yeah.
It is a logistical nightmare.
I'm sure.
It is just crazy. So when you think about Chicago and everything that they're doing there, trust me, people, it is really expensive, and it's like a logistical nightmare. We all of our team, we laugh. We start about mid-June, where none of us sleep very good. And then it's like, by the time we get to mid-July, it's like, forget it. There's no sleep. We're like emailing each other at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. So it takes a lot to put on a street race, I can tell you.
Well, and just from being a spectator and sitting at a wonderful part, which if I remember right, I was at like turn 11, but it was where one of the big accidents was, which, was right in front of us. But, just looking at like the barricades and the, how you laid the track out and how, because you can't have it to where people can just walk over there. So there's all these, I cannot even imagine. And then you probably have to start tearing it down like as soon as the race is over.
Literally. It's insane. And then we have some hotels that are inside the block inside our race campus. And I mentioned the stadium, and there's so many obviously it's a wonderful event and it's so exciting and it's great for the city and all those things. But there is the other side that it's like people, it is difficult to pull this off.
I'm sure.
You can't do it without a great team and a big team and you know, and just, I mean, like I said, it's expensive too. So I feel for Chicago because I know that there's a lot, especially the first one, because you know what you don't know. And
exactly.
Learn so much the first year. And part of learning is making mistakes. You know, we made mistakes our first year with our event. We had things that we had no control over that, you know, we learned a lot from in year one. And that will be the same thing with Chicago. So I certainly wish them the best. And I'll be there cheering them on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, from where I sat, I didn't see anything wrong with the race that I was at, which was the first one. But I'm sure, you know, there's things that, you know, you think, oh, this television was in the wrong spot, which as I think back now, one of the TVs, there was a tree blocking part of the TV. And how would you even think about that? Right.
You just, but honestly, you would think that we would think about that before we get to race weekend. But there's just so much going on. So now be rest assured that doesn't happen because we know when the team, you know, knows certain things like that. But it's just, and plus there are so many trees around our campus. And so we have to work with that. And Nashville loves their trees. So, so there's no cutting trees down.
No,
you have to work around them. So it's definitely interesting.
Well, it was definitely really fun for my husband and I. And it was hot and sunny, but that's what I expected for Nashville in August. And so I was prepared for that. And I mean, you know, I thought where the concessions, like where the food vendors and that was really good. There was a lot of options.
Yeah.
You know, and I really enjoyed it. I want to come back. My son-in-law works in Nashville, but he's only there during the week. So I've got to try to convince him, you know, to stay, and maybe I'll be able to come this year to the race because I'd really like to do that. But
especially now that since you were here for year one and then to come back for year three and to see how we've grown and what you know, and how we've bettered ourselves and in our experience. So we're really excited about year three.
So about how many tickets will you sell for that race? Like how many people will you expect?
I mean, I will tell you over the course of the weekend, you know, we have, I mean, year one, we had 100,000 people that were, you know, in and out. And so it's, I mean, thereabouts, it's somewhere in that range of what we can expect. And listen, it's a spectacle.
I know.
Definitely is. It's so, just to see the people in the grandstands on the street, and I live here, so I drive over that street, you know, throughout the year. And so it's just so different to see it when it's building up. And I'm like a kid in a candy store. When we start moving in the blocks and start building our track, because we really start getting some movement in June. But then when we get to July, I mean, it's like I live on campus, you know, out there just, you know, throughout the day, just overseeing whatever, you know, my responsibilities. And so it's just, it is the most exciting thing. And just to see our pedestrian bridge, it's a little gym in the middle of everything because it goes from, you know, from Broadway, which obviously is my favorite, and it dumps right down into the middle of our race campus. And so, you know, we've got the river, the Cumberland in between. And so it's a beautiful backdrop of the city. And then everybody's coming across the bridge, drops right down into our race campus. We have music and we have, you know, obviously tons of racing all weekend long. And so it really, it's you mentioned the food, we have great food. And our premium hospitality, our Club RPM, we had it in year one, but it was different. Year two, it was completely, we spent an enormous amount of time from year one to year two on Club RPM. And we had people tell us and still tell us every day that our Club RPM is better than any Formula One paddock club they've ever been in.
Nice.
Over the top, but we spent an enormous amount of time on it. It sold out 2 months before our race last year. We have made it larger this year so that we can add some tickets. And those go on sale February 22nd. So we're super excited about it because people were so disappointed. They were like, I didn't even get to buy Club RPM tickets. So now we're like, okay, we're going to have 300 of them available to sell. And that's it because all the other ones are already pre-sold. Wow. And so we're super excited about that because it's an amazing experience. And we're really proud of that. So we do hospitality really well.
So why don't you tell us just a little bit about so maybe we'll all get on February 22nd and try to get those tickets.
Yeah.
What would we be treated to if we were in the Club RPM?
So Club RPM, so I'll tell you, all of our tickets go on sale February 22nd. So that's a big day for us. And so we're really excited about that. We've not been able in the past to put our tickets on sale as early. And just, year one, you can imagine everything was, and, and then year two, excuse me, we're a little bit later. So this year we're really excited to be able to put those out and offer those earlier. People have said, please, can you make those tickets available earlier? So really happy about that. We've already had our pre-sales going on and certainly renewals. So we're coming out of that now, going right into public on sale. So that's February 22nd. And people can go to our website and they can see all the different tickets that are available with, grandstands. You can see where the grandstands are, then where the location is for the track. And then you can also see what types of hospitality we have. You'll see on there Turn 9 Club, which is new for us this year. And Turn 9 is obviously in Turn 9. But that is the most exciting turn truly on the IndyCar circuit. There's more, I'm just going to say it, there's more wreck and more action in that turn than any other turn in IndyCar. And so it's a really, really exciting place to watch a race. So what we did, we said, hey, let's make an experience out of it. Let's make it at one of our premium experiences. So it's a reserved grandstand with tip-up seats. And then at the back of it, because you already mentioned it's hot at our race, at the back of it, we have a very large air-conditioned tent. And we have, food and beverages are included. We're working with and I can't tell it yet because it's not official yet, but we're working with a great, very well-known food partner that will be serving up the food there for 3 days. So that's Turn 9. And then we have Kids Club, which is in the stadium. And it is a really fun experience that has food and beverage included. It overlooks the finish line. It overlooks the paddock area. And so that's a great place to be. Paddock passes are included in that. Air conditioning, which I always say that because that's super important.
It is.
And then Club RPM, which is something that's all of these fall up underneath my umbrella as far as my responsibility. So I love them all like children. It was my favorite child.
Right.
So Club RPM is this amazing, beautiful structure that we have a Pro-EM builds this for us. They build all kinds of incredible structures for the Super Bowl and other big events. And so they start building it a few weeks in advance, 2 floors, all glass, indoor, outdoor, obviously climate controlled. It's in Turn 3. And so it's right in the turn. So we have at the end of the front straightaway, making the turn, and Turn 3 is the last turn that we have before you start up the bridge. This great view of the front straightaway. You're at the end of the front straightaway, you make the turn, and then they're going up the bridge. So then we also have the view with the cars coming back down from the bridge and then shooting down to Interstate Drive. So it's amazing. And so it's there. And then we have paddock passes are included in that. We have a caterer. Kristen Winston is a caterer in Nashville that she's a premium caterer. Her food is delish. Everything is amazing, over the top, and it's premium open bar. So it's beer, wine, liquor, and it's just free flowing all day long. Her food is amazing. We have outdoor viewing that's right down at the track. Like you can almost feel like you could reach out and put your hands on the track. So we have driver appearances in there. We have guided pit tours in there. It's in the middle. It's right next to like the fan zone. So it's just it's the primo place to be. We had car owners that would tell us that go, obviously Indy car owners that go to all the races and have guests and all types of hospitality, said it's the nicest hospitality that they have ever, and nicest club that they have ever had any guest in. So we're really, really proud of that. And it'll sell out super, super fast. So we can't wait to host everybody in Club RPM again.
Okay, that's where I want to be.
I know, right? It's funny because I know that, like I mentioned, Matt Cruz and Jason Rittenberry, who's our president. If I ever need to find them on race weekend, they're usually in Club RPM. So
I don't blame them. I absolutely would.
Yeah,
and,
turn 9 is going to be amazing. That, like I said, that's new for us this year.
Yeah.
We're really proud of it, and it's going to be it's going to be fun. It's a different price point. Obviously, Club RPM is a premium price point.
Right.
Then East Club is our mid-tier price point as far as our premium hospitality, and then Turn 9. So, so we're proud of what we do.
And you know what? So listening to all that, things that have changed over the years, not just with racing, but we're talking about motorsports, is that people don't just want to come and watch a race.
Yeah.
They want an experience. It's
You're
just
right.
like the Masters was just in Phoenix.
Yep.
My 2 daughters live there. So they had the Super Bowl and the Masters. And my daughter said she had to take her kids to school, and every street corner had a policeman where she was at. And they look at her with a dirty look like, lady, why are you driving around? Don't you know there's all these people here? And she said, of course it's good for the economy and all those things. But as a person who lives there and has to take her kids to sports and that, she was like, oh my gosh, but even the Masters, they have that premium area where they have the food and the alcohol.
And that's right.
And so that's what people want. That's and when you say premium price point, people, if they want to have that experience, they know that's what's going to happen, and they'll pay for it.
Right.
And if you can't afford to do that, then you have other options, which I love that.
Absolutely. We have all types of viewing areas from grandstand, different price points. We even have a GA ticket where people can just kind of wander around.
Yeah.
We have this year, we're adding, listen, it's Nashville in August. It's hotter than hoo-ha. So we know that. And so we want to make it as fun and as enjoyable and as cool as possible. So we have free water stations throughout. And we're adding a few more of those. We also have shade tent areas with misting fans that we're adding this year. We had a few of those last year. We're adding more this year.
Okay.
So we know people need to cool off, and we want it to be comfortable for people, and we want people to come out. So so we're offering that to everyone. Obviously, that's all the good stuff that's all a part of the ticket. There's no extra charge for any of that, and we have a great fan zone that we are continuing to work on and build out, and we brought in a fun Ferris wheel in year 2, which a lot of people had a good time with that. We have a family area that we're creating this year. But I want to go back and say this real quick to something you were talking about with premium hospitality.
Okay.
People, first of all, we take it very seriously because we know that people work hard for their money, and when they are paying for something, we don't ever want somebody to say, wow, that wasn't worth that. We want people to leave and go, that was so nice. I'm so glad I did that. And so when I came on, because I came on board before our first race, so I was a part of our team, leading into our first race. I was not overseeing and create, helping create and such with Club RPM and East Club and Turn 9 in year 1, but between the transition of year 1 and year 2, that became part of my responsibility. And so what I did is I went to Daytona. I spent about 8 days in Daytona, following around some of my good buddies there with their premium hospitality. I was in conversations with many different sports and different premium hospitalities and how they would activate it and how they built it out. And the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and my friends there were really helpful and really offering up information. I did a lot of digging, researching. My team did the same thing. And so it was something we took very seriously. The Formula One Club, already mentioned that. Certainly that was, that was in my study book and our study book of events that we looked at, because we, like I said, we want people to say, this was so nice. I'm so happy I did it.
Right.
The biggest failure for us would be for somebody to say, I don't know why I paid that. That wasn't worth it. I mean, again, that would be the worst thing ever, because we don't want that. We want people to be really happy. So we spend a lot of time planning, and I think it shows, because it's it's not something that we just threw out there and said, let's see how it works. The decor is in Club RPM is beautiful, and we work with a great vendor in Nashville that's a premium vendor, and so it's really fun. And like I said, East Club is a very lively, indoor, fun place to be. It's big and great views. And this year we're even doing more. We're having more vendor activation, more activities, if you will, in East Club. And that's a super fun place to be. Turn night is going to be kind of that lively, even kind of, up another notch as far as that lively experience and really fun food. Like I said, I can't wait to be able to announce who that is. RPM is definitely the more luxurious, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have a question. One of my listeners from all the time, KW, she lives in Washington State. She wants to know, what about RV spots? I know there's a lot of really nice RV places in the Nashville area.
Yes.
What would you say to her about if she wanted to find an RV spot?
So we do have some. And they go pretty fast, as you can imagine. And so what I would say is please, go to our website, and there is an information. You can, if you have questions, there's a link, an email link where you can say, hey, do you have this? Do you have that?
Right.
I would simply go on there and ask about that. Feel free to give out my email to anybody that asks you for it. I'm happy to answer any questions. Anybody can contact me directly, and I can certainly help them with that too. But our ticketing guys, Kent, Liam, Justin, they take really good care of our folks, and they see it as a personal journey, with people, kind of the process and the journey of helping people that are find the interest in our event, obviously, get them excited about it, find the right seating, the right RV location for them, and get them hooked up. So we can certainly do that.
All right. Why don't you give us the website that they could look it up? What's your website for the race?
Yeah, so we're musiccitygp.com. And so you can go on there and you can get everything that you need as far as tickets and everything that you need to know. And like I said, there's a contact link on there. So any question that you have that you can't find on the website, you could certainly send an email, and one of us will get back. It's usually one of the ticketing guys that gets back to people on that.
I put that in the chat so that they can all find that. So what's your most favorite thing about your job?
I love to create, and so I really enjoy creating experiences. The downside of that is that I probably take it too personal sometimes.
They're your babies.
Yeah, it's like, man, if I wish I could just say it's just a job, but it's not. I love what I do, and I love who I work for and with, and I'm so blessed every day. I'm grateful that I get up and I can go in and be a part of what we do. Yeah. I just, our CEO just sacrificed a lot for this event, and he worked at it for a long time. And, for me, I feel like I'm just, pretty honored to come on board with something that, that there was so much work put into it before I came along. But I think that the creating is something that is really, really fun for me. And I mean, honestly, I love to work. I mean, I'm a worker, and I love to work. I love to get up each day and go in and, have a pep in my step, and, what can I do today? And that's what I do. Everybody on our team is ready to do something. The other thing I would say is that the relationships are really, I love that part of what I do. Just with the team that I work with, I love each of them, and it's really, I love that part. But also just the vendors and everybody that we work with, you become a big family.
Sure.
And I love that part of it. Good. We all have good days and we all have bad days. So I'm not going to say I don't ever have a day that I'm like, oh, maybe I should retire.
Yeah.
But that those are really short lived, and all those relationships and the people that you work with, that's the really, really fun part about what we do.
Yeah. I agree. And I'm don't have any employees or anything, but the people that I meet and the people that I interview and the people that I write stories about in the magazine, once especially if I do face to face like we're doing, then
Right.
you feel like you really know that person and you're
Oh yeah.
developing a relationship, and it just makes such a difference in, like you get off the show and you're just so excited and that, because it's like, oh, I've made a new friend and I've learned a lot about what's going on, and it just, that's my favorite part, for sure. So K Dub, she always has lots of questions. She said, for a first time fan, what would you say is a must do and see at the event? I am a huge advocate of fan and driver interaction. Do you offer meet and greets where the fans can meet the drivers, get autographs, and see the race cars up close?
Yes, we do. And actually, I'm so glad that's a great question, because we have an event on Thursday night that's free for everyone, and it's on the Broadway side. It's on the river side, on the other side of the river, I should say, on the city side of our campus. And it's a free event, and it's a fan fest of sorts. And so the race teams are there, and it's a pit stop challenge. And so the race teams are having a pit stop challenge with each other. That's an autograph session. And it's fun. It's fun to watch. It's on Broadway, which is just a lively, fun area. And so that's the one thing that I want to say, is that's something that everybody should do. We're all down there, where our team's there as a part of that too. So that's one thing. You want to do that for sure. And then on site, we do actually have driver meet and greets. We'll have those posted as we get closer. We don't have those schedules set yet, but we will as we get a little bit closer. So I would tell, for someone looking for something like that, check back. I would say probably, May, June, for sure. June when we start posting things like that. May still a little bit early. We're still working on the scheduling then. But we definitely do that. We have a great fan zone area that's fun. I mentioned the Ferris wheel. We have other vendor activations and the driver meet and greets. Our paddock area is super fun because we have so many different racing series. And so it's really fun to walk around and see everything. So we have a lot to see. Our campus is very big.
It is.
It is big. And so it's a little, I tell everybody, when you come on site, get one of those little track maps that you see, grab one. You don't need it. Because if you don't, you'll miss stuff. And it's easy to look at that track map and see, oh, here's the water stations, and here's the fan zone, and oh, this is how I get across the track to the paddock area. This is how I find my grandstand, because it is, depending on where you come in. If you're not looking at a map, you can walk for a little while thinking grandstand, and you might be going in the wrong direction, because we do have to have them strategically placed for obvious reasons. Everything can't be all together, so you want to make sure that you do that, and also look at the map on the website so you can have a good idea of what you're doing when you get there, and where your seat is. If you're GA, you can kind of wander around and just kind of have some fun with that. But if you do have a reserve seat, or if you're in one of the clubs, you want to have a general sense of where that is, especially if you're not one that likes to get out and walk and kind of make an adventure of it. So definitely do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And wear comfy shoes.
Yes.
And take a hat and some, I wish I'd have had my little bottle that has the fan on it. But, but looking at the website ahead of time, or like you said, at least get the map when you get there, because
For sure.
I know that I walked a lot when I was there, just from the where we sat over to the food, and I walked around a lot because I wanted to see everything. It was my first
and
time.
there's a lot to see.
There's a lot to see. And then when you said there's a lot of other things, it's not just IndyCar race.
That's right.
So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah,
What
and
else is going to be there?
Yeah, and so I'll have to tell you, and we can't get away from talking about the trucks.
Oh, we love, my husband's favorite part was the trucks.
Yes, and they're so much fun. They're truly a fan favorite, and we obviously we love our Indy cars. Fans love watching the trucks because they're just fun.
They are.
Robbie Gordon trucks. I know a lot of people remember him from back in the day. He used to race at the Cup Series way back when. So he has a great little series there. There's some crazy guys doing some crazy things.
Kids.
They're kids. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Isn't his son like
14 years old? Yeah.
So when I saw him, he was like 12.
I know, it's insane. So
it was crazy, but it was so fun to watch.
Trucks, and they race over the bridge, and people, you know when the trucks are on the track because of the response that you hear in the stands and in the clubs, because people love those dang trucks. So so we have the trucks, so we're excited about that. We have the Indy Lights that race.
Yes.
We have, like last year we had 7 different series of racing. So we have the TA series. I mean, we have GT America. We have all kinds of racing going on. So we have a little bit of everything. And this year, actually, we are going to have on Sunday, we're going to have like some car clubs that are there, like Car Show, Car Club. So we're excited about that because that's new for us this year. And so we're really excited about that, in addition to everything else we have going on. So it's going to be great.
Liz, I can see why you don't sleep at night. Because I'd be laying down thinking about all that.
All the time. It drives me
because when I lay down at night, my husband gets so irritated. Well, not irritated. He's wonderful. But he says, just count. He says, I go to sleep in 5 minutes. Well, yeah, you're not thinking about all the things I'm thinking about.
It's terrible. I know.
And so I lay down. That's when my brain starts to go, woo.
Yes. And I'm a very detail-oriented person. And so during the day, we are, just because of the way that we're structured, we have a lot of meetings during the day. Sure. So it doesn't leave a lot of time for like just busy work. And so I've had to, which it's not my style. Typically, I like to check the boxes off, and when I leave at the end of the day, stuff is done. I very seldom feel like anything is done because we have so many meetings that you just there's sometimes, like, it took me 2 days to check my emails this past week, and that's not my style. And so I go to bed many times thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't answer my emails, or oh no, that needed to be done today, or it's just that drives me nuts. And that's the stuff. I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm just, I'm wide awake. And I have a notepad now that's by my bed.
I do too.
And write stuff down because if not, I can't go back to sleep.
I know, because I found that when I started doing that too, because I find that if I write it down, then I know that in the morning I'm not going to forget.
Yeah.
And so then I can relax.
Yes.
And know that my notes are there. Call so-and-so, follow up this or whatever it might be. Because sometimes when you lay down and you try to relax, that's when those thoughts come to you.
Oh,
it's same thing. Notepad and pen right by the bed.
It's a woman thing, I guess.
Yeah, and then I have to turn my phone light. I have to turn my phone on.
Yeah,
just enough that I can see to write, so my husband doesn't wake up. Oh gosh, what we don't do, but anyway.
I know.
We have to. So, what have we not talked about? I mean, I could talk to you for hours.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you.
What have we not talked about that we definitely should share with our listeners?
I think for me, it's just how much I appreciate the fact that people have not forgotten Davey. It's just so amazing to me, and there are no words that I could ever put into place to tell people how much we appreciate it. I mentioned Robbie and Krista Robbie and Krista were 1 and 3 when Davy passed, and they don't remember their dad.
Yeah.
And for them to be able to hear the stories and to know that he, like, you know, so many people that have lost someone, they, you know, people are special, and everybody's special in their own way. And Davy was special, and he took time for people, and he made people feel special. And so I'm so grateful that my kids get to hear those stories, and they get to hear stories of Davy and how special he was. And so I'm grateful for that. So that I could not leave this show or anything else without telling people how much that means to us, and that that there's not a day that goes by that we don't think about him, and that Robbie and Krista are just the living legacy of him. And every award, every story, every tear that's been shed with me, everywhere I go, somebody, you know, will stop, and I always say there's always a crier everywhere I go, and they're usually men. That will, you know, that will break down and try to tell me something and just can't get the words out of their mouth. And I love that. And I not that people are crying, but that people cared enough, and they still care enough. So thank you for that to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I've heard other people say, I heard someone say one time, because his son had passed away at a very young age, and he said, the one thing that I worry about is that people will forget.
Yes, it just, you know, and people say, oh my gosh, what do you mean? How can people forget? Well, it's just it's a fear of people like myself that have someone that is passed. Like, please don't forget them. And so I get it.
Well, and especially, you know, again, as we talked before we started recording, there's new generations.
Yes.
And they weren't even born when Davy was racing. And so unless they have a parent or somebody who, you know, reminds them, I mean, yes, we hear about him still, but they don't, it's not like they watched, you know, Matt Kenseth or Kevin Harvick or somebody, you know, that they actually watched. And so we have to keep talking about them and sharing what they did to keep their memories alive, for sure.
That's exactly right. Educate the new fans, because I mean, it's an exciting sport, and it's fun to watch and keep up with. For me, I always want to be a student of the sport, and I appreciate drivers that are students of the sport.
Yes.
There's some that aren't, and I, you know, so be it. They're probably not my favorite drivers when they do that.
Right. Absolutely.
Be a student of the sport, and respect those that came along before you. And I think that's important. And I'll say one last thing, because I know we're about out of time.
That's okay.
Larry McReynolds always he's you know, loved Davy, and he talks about him every chance he gets. Mm-hmm. The one thing that I know that Larry talks about, and that I remind people of when I'm out in the sport, is that any driver that comes along now, Davy really, he was kind of the poster child of how to deal with your fans. He appreciated his fans. He would stay after races and sign autographs to the point to where I was like, can we please go home? We have little kids. I just want to go home. And he appreciated them. He made everybody that he talked to feel special.
Yeah.
And he never took for granted what he was blessed with from a career standpoint. And there are many drivers today that unfortunately don't see it that way.
No.
And so I say for anybody who's listening, you go back and look how Davy did it. And that's how it should be done, because he did it right.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's what we're going to do. We have 5 names.
Yes.
That have been on here. And like I said, Liz, we get a lot more listens later.
Oh, yeah.
Especially tonight, because the cars are headed to the track for
qualifying. I know, I'm so excited. That's where I'm headed as soon as we're done.
Yeah. And so I've written them on here.
Yeah.
And written their names on here. So I'm going to mix them up, because I don't know whose is whose. And then I'm going to pick the one that's in the middle. So this is the winner of the 2 tickets.
Dun-dun-dun. Who is it?
Laura Tucker.
All right, Laura, yay!
So Laura Tucker is from, just a minute, Laura Tucker is from Mount Clemens, Michigan. Awesome, Laura. So
she's going to make the trip, the journey into Nashville.
She's headed to Nashville. So Laura Tucker, I want you to send me your information privately, And I'll connect you, and Liz and I'll get together. And when the tickets are available, we'll see that you get them. So
absolutely,
that's exciting, Laura. I'm so excited for you. She says, awesome. Thank you. So that's great. So Liz, if you would just stay on a minute, I'm going to say goodnight to our listeners. Thank you for being on. Thank you for being part of the drawing. And we love hearing what Liz is doing. And I'm going to get on and check out your books that you've written because I love to read. And I didn't know that you had published any books until I read. So I'm going to check that out. But thanks everybody for listening. It's been a wonderful show tonight. I really appreciate it. So thanks a lot, and I'll talk to you next week.
Bye, everybody.